One of the most important things we can do in life is trying to discern, what is God calling me to? We're all called to holiness. And that's something from the moment we're baptized. We're called to be holy. And yet also God calls us in a particular way, to a particular path. For most, they're called to marriage. Others called to the priesthood or the religious and consecrated life. Some are called to that radical giving of self in the single state. And so with that awareness of that call is then, how do I go about to figure that out? How do I know what God is calling me to? And there are some basic things that basically God gives to us to be able to discern that. And we can see that in the lives of the saints. It's just many times, because we have so many distractions, if we're not seizing those opportunities that God gives to us, then it becomes very difficult to discern a call. And not only sometimes we may actually be able to discern a call, it becomes very difficult to have the courage to say yes to the call. But in being able to discern it, some of the things that, as teenagers, some of the things they have to do would be, one is always striving to be in a state of grace. That's always first and foremost. Enjoy life, but always be in a state of grace. Along with that is being faithful to daily prayer. And challenge themselves with it. Try to really make some time. Not only say, well, I say my prayer right when I go to bed or right when I get up. That's great. But really try to make time during the day, whether it's reading from the scriptures, reading a little bit from the Gospels, whether it's making some time, just some silent prayer, to have courage to enter into the silence. And Mother Teresa used to say that. That along with it, sometimes reading a good spiritual book, a good Catholic spiritual book in particular, because there you have that fullness of the faith that will be being brought into that particular writing. Praying the Rosary. If someone finds it hard to pray the Rosary, they say, I can't sit there the whole time and pray it. Well, then break it up during the day. You know, pray one decade, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes to pray it, and then do another decade later in the day, and then another decade at another point. But just trying to make that time, especially why with the Rosary, why looking to the example of Mary and looking to her intercession. Because at her young age, as a teenager, she said yes to the greatest calling that has ever existed. Another way is really learning how to love every vocation. To love marriage, to love the priesthood, to love religious life. And it's a challenge nowadays because many times the youth don't always see those vocations being lived in a joyful way. Whether it's marriage or whether it's the priesthood or religious life, sometimes many youth have never even seen a religious or consecrated person. But to at least try to come to know those lives and to pray for them. And that by praying for those vocations, learning to love those vocations, by being faithful to prayer, being faithful with the Eucharist every Sunday, and if possible, trying to go during the week as well, if they can. Being frequent with confession, at least trying to go once a month. And some might say, well, I don't have any major sins. Fine, but the great graces that come from that. The Holy Spirit does so much work in that sacrament. It's amazing. And then just living generosity. Being generous with others. Being generous with their time. If they have a younger brother and sister, being generous with them. Spending time with them. You may want to go watch television, you may want to do your own thing, go hang out with friends. But to recognize, especially those right around us, they're the ones that God is calling us many times to infuse His love first and foremost. And when someone lives generosity, that then when God calls them to be generous in a particular way, it's very easy to respond to it. It's difficult at times, without a doubt, but it's going to be the path of greatest joy, the path of greatest happiness. And that's why the discerning of vocation is so important for all of us. And that's why I look into the saints, because they did it before us. They trusted in difficult situations, and then we can look at their lives and see, because of their response, because of their living their vocation, what extraordinary things God did.